is unmatched, but there's more that we can do. We are working with the Manatee County Sheriff's Office and local businesses to illuminate underlit neighborhoods with Light Up Manatee, and leveraging AI traffic preemption technology with our own Public Works Department to dramatically improve EMS response times, from bolstering law enforcement to implementing advanced technology countywide to fostering safer neighborhoods on a localized level. Manatee County and the Board of County Commissioners are committed to a vision that is focused on your well-being.
As our county continues to grow and evolve, the heart of our urban core holds immense potential for progress and prosperity. That's why we're prioritizing and expediting requests for affordable housing development and taking action to identify opportunities for enhancing neighborhoods and business districts. As part of this initiative, we're collaborating with the Manatee County Sheriff's Department, the City of Bradenton, and the Police Athletic League to provide support for improving the area around LECOM. This expansion will not only bring extra lit, publicly accessible ball diamonds and parking, but also significantly boost the local economy and transform the neighborhood by directly benefiting underprivileged youth in the area.
The Manatee County Utilities Department does way more than manage the distribution of clean drinking water. Reliable utilities can attract businesses and industries to our area, contributing to economic growth and job creation. Not only is Manatee County continuing to expand services for our taxpayers with the addition of 75 new lift stations over the next 5 years, but we're also looking to improve it. We're in the process of constructing Florida's largest low-pressure membrane filtration facility at our Lake Manatee water treatment plant, which will result in consistent water quality. And our spillway replacement project will ensure improved dam safety, enhanced flood management, and increased resilience for anything that Mother Nature throws our way.
Thank you for giving us the chance to provide you with a clear vision for our beautiful county. Please feel free to email any of the commissioners featured in this video by going to mymanatee.org/vision. From our award-winning beaches to the expansion of our convention center, it's with your support that we'll continue to make Manatee County the premier place to live, work, and play.
Slow down approaching the roundabout. Look for walkers and cyclists at the crosswalks. Look left toward traffic and yield to traffic in the roundabout as they have the right of way. Merge into the roundabout. Exit where you want to go by turning right, and don't forget to use your turn signals.
Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, you want to do our swearing in first?
You want me first? Do you want to do minutes are first on the agenda?
Okay, yeah. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from last meeting?
Mr. Chair, I move to have the October 12th, 2023 minutes approved as submitted.
Do we have a second? I'd like to vote, but doesn't seem like it's letting me. Oh, there it is, okay.
Oh, that was wrong.
So that's all, that seems incorrect. Well, it wasn't Ms. Prosser that moved, it wasn't,
She beat me to it electronically.
okay. All right, so the motion is by
Batter.
Mr. Bedford and second by Mr. Delson. Would please vote? And it passes 5-0 with Mr. Roth and Mr. Smoot absent. Okay. Now the swearing in, right?
Ms. Prosser, ready? All right. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will support, protect, and defend the Constitution and government of the United States and of the state of Florida, that you are qualified to hold office under the Constitution of the state, and that you will well and faithfully perform at all times the duties of the Planning Commission on which you are now about to enter? I do. All right. Congratulations.
Welcome aboard. Now, on the election of the officers, go ahead.
Good morning, Vicki Tesmer for the Clerk's Office. I will open nominations for Chairman of the Planning Commission.
I would like to nominate Richard Bedford.
Sorry.
Oh,
Sorry about that. We spoke to the chair today. We're going to wait and do it more like the board does. We're going to do it in December and then take effect in January. And plus, we don't have a full board today. We're missing 2 people.
okay, thank you.
Sorry about that.
Okay. I say, you give me one more day. It's bearable. Okay. All right. So next is opening it up for comments from the public, and we invite you to make comments about items that are not being spoken to or addressed today. So if you have a comment about something other than the current agenda items, you're welcome to step forward, introduce yourself by name, and tell us your area of residence, and you'll have an opportunity to speak. Usually here for a specific purpose, so if there's not anybody, last chance, we'll move forward in the agenda. All right, we'll close the public hearing part. So advertising, the following items are on presentation upon request. Do you want to read them into the record to start, please?
Good morning. Item number 3, PDC 2308 CG Racetrack at US 41 at Moccaso Wallow Road, and it's a rezoning of 3 parcels for approximately 4.9 acres from neighborhood commercial median, professional office small, and suburban agriculture zoning district to the planned development commercial zoning district, and approving a general development plan for approximately 6,000 square feet of convenience stores with accessory gas pumps. The site is located at the southeast corner of US 41 and Moccaso Wallow Road at 9608 US 41 North Palmetto, Manatee County.
Thank you. First, has anybody had any ex parte communications in regards to this particular project?
No, sir.
All right, seeing none, then guess the question would be, does anyone want to see or request a preliminary review, at least a presentation on this particular project?
Mr. Chairman, I only have one question, and it's probably self-evident. Hold on. I gotta get the little red light going. There we go. Just one question to make sure that we're going to be requesting all the required right-of-way, of course, because Moccasin Wallow is getting widened, so turn lanes and all that kind of stuff we'll be dealing with at the final site plan level, I'm guessing.
Please step forward. I think that's a request for some information, so an abbreviated outline, and maybe speaking specifically to that, please.
No problem. Good morning, Annie Barnes, planner with Stearns Weaver Miller. Before I start, can I be sworn in?
Ah, yes.
Is there anyone else that's even remotely thinking about voting, talking today? Please stand up and get sworn in.
I do. Annie Barnes, planner with Stearns Weaver Miller, 401 East Jackson Street, Tampa, Florida, Suite 2100. Also with me are representatives from Racetrack and Vanette Godelia, shareholder with Stearns Weaver Miller. So the dedication of right-of-way has already been accounted for as this project. So it's excluding that right-of-way area.
Fair enough, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant?
No, sir.
Does the staff feel a need or interest in the benefit of the community to make any comments further?
No, at this time, the information provided is correct.
Okay. All right. With that being, we'll now open up for public comment. Would anybody like to make comments in regards to this particular project? Again, step forward, your name, residence. And if not, we'll close public comment and move forward and ask for a response from the board. Okay, so we have Ms. Carver and Ms. Prosser motion and a second. Please cast your vote, please. Again, passes unanimously 5-0 with Mr. Smock and Mr. Roth absent.
Mr. Chair, just say it's a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Okay. Our next item, could you read into the record, please?
Item number 4, Z2313, the Eatman Marine Expansion, CG zoning, Gasparilla Marine Cells, and is providing for a rezone of 1.04 acres from PDC, Land Development Commercial, within the Airport Impact Overlay District to GC, returning the Overlay District. The site is located 0.76 miles northeast of the University Parkway on the east side of North Miami Trail, US 41, commonly known 8341 North Miami Trail, Sarasota, and the case manager is Mr. Kevin Oldman.
Okay, thank you. Again, board, any comments? None. Okay.
May I have just like a small presentation on this?
Yes, absolutely. That's
not
certainly
as familiar.
appropriate. So
Sorry.
we would then ask a abbreviated presentation that we can then dig further into. So I can invite you to the microphone, please.
It's hard to tell.
So, Mr. Chair, you asked for disclosure of export communications, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
No, we're not. Normally, the applicant does the initial outline.
Right.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, fellow commissioners, and congratulations, Madam Commissioner. For the record, Greg Stewart of Stewart & Associates, Planning and Design Services in the great little city to the south, Fort Myers, Florida. The conventional zoning in front of you relates to Ingman Marine boat sales. They're located on US 41, more or less opposite the University of South Florida's campus, bounded to the east by the airport. The intent of the zoning is pretty straightforward. The existing facility is 1.5 acres. We want to rezone from PDC to general commercial for a south adjoining 1 acre site. I believe it was a former car sales site, so it's been developed and cleared. And we need this additional 1 acre to facilitate expansion of the facility, to have more display and to have better storage for the inventory, and that would then facilitate an expansion of the existing service bays on the north side, on the existing site. We agree with staff findings in the staff report. The project is consistent with a large number of comprehensive plan policies. I can enumerate them if you'd like. There are no compatibility issues. Infrastructure is in place. The site is large enough to accommodate all site-required landscape buffers, easements, surface water management systems, and the like. We will be upgrading the existing 1.5 acre facility to meet code to the extent possible. We'll be improving the parking lot and building perimeter landscaping and that type of thing. So I can go into depth on what we're doing, but that's an overview of the project, and we hope you would recommend approval for this general commercial rezoning.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Staff, would you like to make some comments beyond that?
Good morning, Board, Chairman, staff. My name is Kevin Oatman. I'm with Development Services, and I've been sworn in. Pretty much the surrounding area is consistent with what they are proposing. It is within the existing, there is existing GC zoning surrounding that area, as well as the future land use of ROR. So again, everything that is being proposed at this time is consistent with the surrounding development. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Any questions for the applicant?
Yes, sir.
Does that help you? Is this good? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have a small comment on, the applicant mentioned that they're going to upgrade the existing site area, and I hope that that doesn't necessarily include putting a very dense buffer along 41 so that no one can see your business. So maybe as staff goes through that, because I know where you're headed, if you're going to have to redo your FSP on your existing site plan, staff may be looking to require stuff of your existing site plan. And while buffering on the three sides wouldn't bother me too much, along 41, I'd like to keep it open so your business can be seen from the street.
Of course, and as I communicated with the applicant in previous discussions, when final site plan does come through, we'll ensure that there's proper buffers as well as the mitigations for what is needed in landscaping setbacks, as well as the existing surrounding development will be put in place at that time. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
No, sir.
Okay, great. With that, we'll open it up for public comment. Would anybody like to make comments in regards to this particular submission and request? Please step forward. You're welcome to have the microphone and make your comments now. Not seeing any, I'll give you a last chance. Anything in regards to this you'd like to make known? If not, we'll close public comment. And any final staff comments? Any rebuttal from the submitter? It's not required, so. Okay, so none from the submitter. So we'll ask the board if they would have further comments or questions and a recommendation. Do I have a recommendation to take action on this?
There's a motion. I move to approve,
Okay.
and Ms. Keva seconded it.
Correct. Okay, so with that, would you place your votes? Once again, it passes 5-0 with the absentee Roth and Smoot not voting. Okay. So now we go to the advertised full presentations. Would you please read in number 5?
And Mr. Chair, take 5 and 6 together and vote separately. They both pertain to the
Okay.
same property.
Okay.
I'm going to read together.
Yes, please.
Item number 5, PA 2305, Ordinance 2331, Landsman Large Scale Comprehensive Plan Amendment, and it's a legislative case, and the case manager is Mr. Charles Andrew, and is amending the Manatee County Ordinance number 8901, and as amended, the Manatee County Comprehensive Plan, providing a purpose and intents, providing findings, providing for a privately initiated large-scale map amendment to the land use map of the future land use element to designate real property generally located at the southeast corner of 57th Street East, Morgan Johnson Road, and 18th Avenue East, Bradenton, Manatee County, from Res 1 residential 1 dwelling units per acre to the Res 3 residential 3 dwelling units per acre, and the project site is 85.9 more or less acres. Retaining the PSP1 future land use category, public, semi-public 1. And item number 6 is PDR 2310 CP 18th Avenue East, Landsman Yoder Land Holding LLC, Yoder Land Holding LLC, Matthew Lassman and Paul Yoder, and is a quasi-judicial, and the case manager is Ms. Laura Gonzalez. And it's a rezone of more or less 80.70 acres from A1 CPA Agricultural Suburban Coastal Planning Area to the PDR Plan Development Residential, retaining the coastal planning overlay, and the site is located south of the 18th Avenue East, east of the 57th Street East, and commonly known as 6218 East 18th Avenue East in Bradenton, and is approving a preliminary site plan for 242 single-family detached units and associated infrastructure.
Okay, great, thank you. Presentation.
Hi, good morning. Linda Stewart, planner with Morris Engineering, representing the applicant for, I've combined the presentation for both of them into one. For Landsman 18th Avenue, PLN 2211076 and 2212061. The property is located just south of 18th Avenue East and just east of 57th Street East, with all of the noted PID numbers associated with the parcel. The request is to rezone the property from the existing A1 CPA designation to a planned development residential with a preliminary site plan approval for a 242 single-family detached residential development with an amenity center, as well as for a comp plan amendment from the RES1 with a PSP future land use to an RES3 and retaining the PSP1 land use on 85.9 acres. For the comp plan amendment, for the rezoning, the acreage is different at 80.7 acres. With the comp plan amendment change to RES3, it gives us a 2.99 dwelling unit per acre density, which is within the allowable range of the 3 dwelling units per acre. The open space is 35% required and is provided. This is the surrounding zonings on the parcel. From the parcel, with A1 around, you have PDR zonings to the north and residential single families to the north and to the south, with other residential subdivisions in the area. For the future land use, the black lines are the area where we're actually asking for the rezoning and the comp plan amendment, and the two blue are additional parcels that are owned by separate people. They have joined in on the future land use change application so that we could have a contiguous attachment from the RES1 to the RES3 and not leave any open areas for the future land use designation change. The majority of the parcels to the north of this request are designated with an RES3 future land use. They're compatible with the surrounding area. The P/SP1 is an FP&L transmission line that bisects the parcel from the northwest to the southeast corner of the property. It is compatible with the Comprehensive Plan Policy 2.2.1.10 for the RES3, as well as 2.1.1.2 to designate land with the existing development areas at densities and intensities which are compatible. 2.1.4, limiting urban sprawl by allowing residential developments which are contiguous to the built environment. And 2.1.2.5 through 2.1.2.7 for residential compatibility with future growth and development timing. This is a blown-up designation so that you can see the different rezoning areas on the left-hand side and the comp plan change on the right-hand side, with the two blue parcels designation as separately owned but joining it in the application. A little bit of background on the property. From the 1950s through the 1970s, there was a burrow pit operation on the parcel. 1970s, there was a nursery operation and residential homes were put on there for the owners of the property. From the 1980s to the 1990s, the nursery expanded and there were site clearing that were associated with these operations. Currently, it's an existing nursery, residential structures, 160-foot wide Florida Power and Light transmission easement, and burrow pit lakes. These are some of the aerials showing what the site has transformed from 1957, when there wasn't anything really on the parcel. 1973, you can see where they started the burrow operations and some of the nursery operations in residential areas up along 18th Avenue. In 1984, it's a little bit more prevalent with the nursery operations and the burrow lakes. And then 1998 is pretty similar to what it is today with the nursery operations up in the northwest portion with the existing lakes. We're requesting a PDR zoning district to include single-family detached residential as well as an on-site amenity center. We are asking for one specific approval request from LDC section 1001.1.C.2 to allow 2 development driveways onto 18th Avenue, which is a local roadway, since it's the only frontage for this development. They have no ability to access another road for the 2 developments over 100 units. This is from information from the Manatee County Development Viewer Map, showing the large residential developments and construction surrounding the 18th Avenue property. It falls in line with the county's development pattern going from west to east. And this is north of 64, kind of showing that there's a lot of development pattern just north of this parcel, with this property being compatible with the existing residential development going on in the area. This is the site plan for the PSP, indicating the 242 single-family development lots. And if you note down in the south where there's L4, the large lake area, we had initially proposed to have single-family lots down there around the lake, but after having a neighborhood meeting with the neighborhood, some of the neighbors were concerned about having the residential lots adjacent to them, so the developer removed those lots from around the lake and just expanded the lake area. Also adjacent to that, they did some upland mitigation and a wetland. There's an existing wetland. So everything south of the FP&L transmission line easement will be open area. They have a 50-foot roadway buffer along the northern property line. Even though they're required to have 20, they've provided a 50. There's a 20-foot greenbelt buffer along the south and east property lines, 15-foot greenbelt along the west property line, and the wetland buffers provide a 30-foot buffer around them for on-site and off-site wetland areas. As I noted, there's 2 accesses on the north property to 18th Avenue. They are providing 5-foot sidewalk along 18th Avenue, which will connect to the west to the existing sidewalk on 57th Street. And internally, they'll have 5-foot sidewalks on both sides of the internal residential streets. For the environmental portion, on-site, there's 3.04 acres of wetlands with 94% preservation. Surface waters, there's 19.36 acres with 7 man-made ponds and ditches. Wetland number 2 and the surface waters are a result of the Burrow Pit operation. They will have 0.2 acres of wetland impacts where they will mitigate for 0.06 credits at the local mitigation bank. They are restoring for upland restoration 1.36 acres down in the southeast corner. There was 1 little blue heron observed on site, 1 gopher tortoise burrow that potentially may have a tortoise within the burrow. If there is, we will appropriately permit this with the state agencies and federal agencies. For the proposed stormwater, the drainage goes to Braden River, which is 0.5 miles to the west. The master stormwater ponds are wet retention that are 16.4 acres. 2 of the existing ponds to remain to support the stormwater system from the borough operation of 7 ponds. There's existing utilities in the area provided by Manatee County along 18th Avenue. There's a 6-inch water main. There's no reclaim. There is a 6-inch wastewater along 57th Street that will be extended to this property for service. On site, there will be a 4-inch force main, a public lift station, 8-inch sanitary sewer, and 6-inch water main. The traffic analysis was done by Palm Traffic, and it's an estimated traffic trips generated at 117 a.m. peak hour total in and out, 234 p.m. peak hour trips total. The report was dated April 11th, 2023. And in the analysis, an eastbound right turn lane is warranted on 18th Avenue from the western driveway. No turn lanes are warranted on 18th Avenue from the eastern driveway. We are submitting this for recommendation for approval to the commission, and we believe that the development is in compliance with the Land Development Code and is consistent with Section 402.2 and 402.4A of the PD regulations. It's consistent with the Comprehensive Plan's RES3 Future Land Use Category Policy 2.2.1.10. RES is for areas of primarily low-density suburban residential and support uses, which we believe we are compatible. And we believe that the project does not adversely affect the general health, safety, and welfare of the general public. The design strives to provide excellence and neighborhood compatibility for the area. There are no known historical resource impacts, environmental impacts, and is consistent with the development patterns in the area with a logical explanation of expansion of the adjacent zoning districts. And with that, we are available for any questions you may have. We have the engineer and the traffic engineer here as well.
Great, thank you. Board, any questions for the submitter?
No, sir.
I have one. Can you just tell me what the lot sizes are? They were pink and orange. I assume they're different lot sizes.
Let me go back to the... Oh, goodness, I went right past it.
There we go.
Okay, we have 40-foot wide lots and 50-foot wide lots. There's a small detail on the right-hand side of the master site plan.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions?
Yes, please. Can you please tell me how much frontage the property has on 18th?
Oh, I cannot read the... Let me see if the... I'm sorry. 1,800? Thank you.
Commissioner Bedford, anything?
Actually, I have one more
Yes,
question.
please.
Sorry, just a quick question. Do you have any thought, plans in possible future purchasing property maybe on 64th? To expand, maybe access?
That has never been discussed, to my knowledge.
Okay, all right, thank you.
No further questions? We ask staff to come forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. Hi, Charles Andrews with staff, certified planner. Let me get my PowerPoint up here. So the applicant did a great job here, and I'll just kind of summarize a few things on this request. This is for a large-scale comprehensive plan map amendment. And the applicant did a great job here when I'm looking at the aerial here real quick regarding the acreage difference between the comprehensive plan map amendment and the rezoning, just regarding the 5-acre difference. So they brought in some additional property so we could have that Res 3 kind of be a logical continuation from the north. So jumping in here on the site, it's 85.9 acres for this request. It's at the southeast corner, 57th Street East, Morgan Johnson Road, and 18th Avenue East. Here's another aerial site here, or imagery picture here. So the request is going from Res 1 to Res 3. And under the current existing Res 1 future land use category, we have low-density residential, short-term agriculture, and support uses, including neighborhood commercial, public, semi-public, recreation, and schools. The proposed Res 3 future land use classification would permit low-density suburban residential uses, short-term agriculture, and support uses, including neighborhood commercial, public, semi-public uses, recreation, and schools. Existing future land use is Res 1. The proposed is Res 3, retaining the PSP1 FPL easement. Density intensity, this is basically existing Res 1. We have 1 dwelling unit per gross acre, maximum floor area ratio of 0.23. The proposed Res 3 would be 3 dwelling units, oops, excuse me, that should be 3 there. It says Res 3, but 3 dwelling units per gross acre. Maximum of 6 if 25% is affordable housing. And then 0.35 if located at an activity node. So the next slide here, real quick, regarding that activity node, it is not currently at a functionally classified intersection. 57th Street East or Morgan Johnson Road is designated as a collector, but 18th Avenue East is a local road, so it's not a functionally classified roadway. I do have transportation staff here if any questions afterwards. Existing zoning is A1, agricultural suburban. And then the history on the site, since '89, the property has had a Res 1 future land use classification. Since 1990, it's had an A1 or agricultural suburban zoning district. Surrounding development. And then public facilities, we have schools in the area, Bashaw Elementary, Hale Middle, Braden River High. Transit, the nearest public transit stop is 1.6 miles northeast of the site, located at the intersection of State Road 64 East and 66th Street Court East, Travelers Oasis. For parks, we have 3 parks in the area, Bennett Park, Heritage Harbor Park, and Creekwood Park. There we go. Positive aspects. Res 3 appears to be a logical transition given the emerging development trends from the north and northwest of the subject property, specifically as the county goes from a low-density residential to a low-density suburban residential development pattern. The site is located west of and within the future development area boundary, where development is encouraged and public utilities are available. A negative aspect would be requested Res 3 allows for an increase in residential density intensity adjacent to Res 1, which poses a concern of potential adverse impacts, compatibility issues generated by this category, especially where the specifically adjacent to Res 1 at the southern and eastern portions of the subject property. Mitigating factors. Detailed analysis of capacity and impacts on public facilities, including utilities and transportation, will be required at time of future development of the site. Any future development of the site shall comply with the Manatee County Land Development Code, including but not limited to building setbacks, minimum open space, roadway improvements, stormwater requirements, and traffic design per policy 2.1.2.7 of the comprehensive plan. Adequate buffering, landscaping, and design should provide a transition between the future development of the site and adjacent agricultural and residential uses. In conclusion, request appears to meet the applicable policies of the Comprehensive Plan and Land Development Code, and the request is for transmittal to the Board of County Commissioners for this plan amendment, and I'm here if you have any questions. Thank you.
Board, any question for the staff?
Mr. Chairman, will the comp plan have to go to the state?
Yes, sir. As it's over 50 acres, it's a large scale, so it would be transmittal.
So the comp plan will go to the state, they'll hold off, assuming this approved and moved down, they'll hold off on the rezone until the comp plan comes back from the state?
Yes, sir. They would go concurrent to the Board of County Commissioners and be heard before the rezoning. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And nothing else? Thank you. Okay, now we'll open it up for public comment. Oh,
I have Laura Gonzalez with the rezoning side to present.
very good.
Good morning.
Good
This is
morning.
Laura Gonzalez, Planner 2 with Development Services Department, and I have been sworn. I am going to talk about the rezoning application. Okay? I agree with the applicant presentation and just want to highlight some of our findings. So the request is to approve a rezone from A1 to PDR, retaining the coastal planning area overlay. And also the applicant is seeking approval of a preliminary site plan for a residential development for 242 single-family detached units and associated infrastructure. This is the project site. That is, the total acreage is 80.7 acres. This is the map of the future land use category. The current future land use category is Res 1, and as explained before, there is a request to change the future land use category to Res 3. This is the zoning map. The current zoning is A1, and the request is for a PDR. This is a sum out of the zoning map that allows for a comprehensive overview of the land use pattern across a larger geographical area. This is the PSP. I don't want to spend much time on the proposed PSP since the applicant has already addressed the proposal detail thoroughly, as well as the specific approval request. We are in support of this request. It is the 18th Avenue East is a local road, but it's the only frontage that the development has. And the code allows to have on the same on the same thoroughfare, if the separation is 300 feet. This proposal does not comply with the thoroughfare. It's a local road, but there is the separation between the two axes exceeds the code requirements. Positive aspects: the design provides 50% overall open space that includes buffers, upland preservation area, wetlands, and stormwater facilities. And this exceeds the land development code requirements for projects, residential projects within the coastal planning area. Public facilities are either in place or planned to serve the development. As the staff has included in the staff report, county's water and sewer facilities are available in the vicinity of the development. Also, the school board has determined that school capacity is available or will be available within the school service area. Recreational areas are available nearby, and also the project includes an amenity center that has been proposed as a neighborhood focal point. Negative aspects: the proposed pattern of development differs from the characteristics of the immediate vicinity. The proposed density is higher, and the proposal resembles the planned communities that have been transforming the area from west to east, as mentioned for the comprehensive plan staff. the buffers that are proposing that meets and exceeds code requirements will screen the development to address compatibility with the surrounding A1 properties. Also, some parcels within the project have been dedicated to a nursery business, exposing them to pesticides and chemicals and creating a risk of contamination and an unsafe environment for future residents. And to mitigate this situation, a stipulation has been added requiring environmental site assessment phase 1 at time of the final site plan, and any recognized environmental conditions noted in this evaluation shall be remediated to the satisfaction of the regulating authority. Contingent upon the approval of the comprehensive plan amendment to RES 3, staff finds the request to be consistent with the policies of the comprehensive plan and the applicable requirements of the Land Development Code with the proposed stipulation and a specific approval. Compliance with these requirements and all applicable standards of the Land Development Code and comprehensive plan will be reviewed in detail at time of the final site plan submittal. Any question?
Thank you. Questions from the board?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, can you go back to the PSP?
Sure. Here it is.
The 50-foot roadway buffer doesn't look like it goes from property line to property line along from east to west, so I would suggest that it does indeed do that. This is obviously an infill piece, and I think it's appropriate. However, that buffer probably needs to go the full length of the frontage. Also, on the east and the west, I would encourage a more opaque buffer, buffering those lots from the adjacent neighbors. So we may want to think about having a greater landscape buffer where we're adjacent to existing homes.
The green belt buffer required by the code is 15 feet. That this is the distance that is proposed to the west side, and I cannot see right in this moment, but I think that to the east is 20 feet.
I'm just saying that the buffer should have an increased opacity on the east side and the west side when it's adjacent to existing residential.
We can check that at time of the final site plan, sir.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Thank you very much. And now at this time, we're going to open it up for public comment. And so anyone is here to speak on this, if you would step forward, say your name and where you're residents of. And unless you are registered with a group, you get 3 minutes, right? Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Shirley Allen. I'm a resident of the neighborhood to the east. I live on 18th Avenue. Pardon me? Well, you swore the group, right? Okay, thank you. I've been, thank you, they're very meticulous.
Forgive us, we're neurotic about it.
I've been sworn.
And you live in?
My name is Shirley Allen. I live on 18th Avenue East.
Thank you.
I appreciated the professional presentations of the proposal to change the zoning level from the current one to one that would allow significantly more housing in the area. And I understand that the developer has an interest in doing that, but I am opposed to changing the zoning. I noticed in the presentation from the developer that they didn't include us to the east, which I believe that the proposal is not consistent with the neighborhood. And it sounded to me like the state representative also said that that was a negative aspect, that it was not consistent with the surrounding neighborhood. My other big concern is I wonder about the infrastructure to support this development, because if I understood the proposal correctly, the access to the development is along, two places along 18th Avenue East, that is a two-lane road with speed bumps on it, and there's also a nursery for children on that road. There are two accesses from 64 Highway. One is 18th Court Avenue, and the other one is Morgan Stanley Road, and those are two-lane roads also. So I can't conceive of how this is gonna be a safe construction. Plus, I don't think the roadways support 500 cars, because if there are 250-ish people living in that new development, they're going to be trying to get out these two lanes. I guess it can go the other way on Morgan Stanley down to 70, but that puts a lot of stress on the current infrastructure. And in talking to my neighbors, our question is, who's going to pay for the improvement in the roads? And questions about my partner is really upset about trying to turn off of 64 onto 18th Court Avenue East, because that turn is limited because of the traffic pattern on 64. So if you have 500 more cars trying to get off of 64, that's going to create a problem too. And then I'm sure you're all aware of, oh, does that mean I
Yeah, go
use
ahead and
my?
finish your thought, please.
Well, I just want to, I know you're all aware of the environmental concern of the endangered species and the question about, is the water actually going to run west into the river? Because when construction compacts the land, it's no longer permeable, and we already have water issues in the neighborhood with concerns for flooding, and that would totally change the environment there. So,
Thanks for coming forward. We appreciate it. Yes, sir. Welcome. And just
My
so
name's
you've been
Brian
sworn.
Kenzior, and I have been sworn in.
Thanks.
So, I find it kind of ironic because as I was driving from Palmetto High School to here this morning, and thinking about changing the density of population, it took me 27 minutes to make a 3-mile trip. Okay, so when I'm now looking at what they're going to do in our community, I live directly across the street. I'm on 18th Avenue. I will be looking at the back of homes. And what I want to say is, I think there's a difference being compliant with what is happening and common sense, okay? I'm not against things being improved, but at the end of the day, 242 houses on that road is not going to work. With the addition of 44th Avenue, that is slightly down from us, we are now getting an overabundance of cars that are now using 18th Avenue, which has been for years and years consistently a cut through to go from there to the interstate. They don't go down all the way down Morgan Johnson because they don't want to sit at the stoplights there, so they always cut through, go down 64th Street Court East, and then they go out to the interstate. So if you're looking at traffic patterns, it is definitely not going to work at all. If they're going to do something, they're going to have to put a stoplight at that street between Morgan Johnson and 18th Avenue, because there is no way that people can get out in the morning. Right now, cars are 10 and 12 deep, and if you have a bus that's in front of you and you're waiting for that bus to turn, you are going to be there for 20 minutes at least before you can get out. And that's just not acceptable to be on a small neighborhood street. So this is totally out of the norm for our neighborhood. If you look at the densities around us, from 44th Avenue all the way over to 13th Avenue, and from Morgan Johnson all the way to the interstate, they're all larger residential homes with probably on the average of 2.5 acres per house. And now we're going to pack 3 houses in an acre, and it's not really in an acre, to be honest with you, because they're only looking at 59 acres of land that is going to be constructed. So the other 30 acres, although it counts in the 80 acres of it, 59 acres of that is actually going to be used to pack 242 houses. That's a little ridiculous on a small road that we are. Our community it's a great community. It's people that have lived in the community for years and years and years. I actually worked at the nursery back in 1992 and actually 88 to 92, I did, as a high school student, I worked there. I know the environmental impacts that were caused at that point in time at the nursery, so there are going to be significant impacts. There's been a lot of spraying with a lot of very bad chemicals. I'm just telling you that, so that's something that they're going to have to look at. And like I said, it's upsetting to me because of, like, there's nothing around that area aside from River Sound and Amberley. Those are the two closest ones that are the highest density ones. But again, from 13th to 44th and Morgan Johnson to the interstate, I ask you to relook at that, because that area is not approved. You should be near approved for the density that we're looking at. 1 acre, 1 home per acre, I could possibly agree with, because I understand that things have to happen, but 3 per acre is just beyond ridiculous. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming forward. Hey, please, this is not an entertainment event. We don't need to clap. We appreciate the support, but let's be professional, please. Yes, sir.
Yes, John Zimmerman. I live at 6607 24th Avenue East, Magnolia Manor, which is just to the east of this property. I have
Been sworn.
As the gentleman had me just mentioned, we've got a lot of concerns, and a lot of it's going to be traffic. A lot of it's going to be stormwater flood concerns. When we bought our property in 1976, we were not in a flood zone. Since then.
Excuse me one second. Have you been sworn? You have to.
I have been sworn.
Okay, thank you. I apologize for interrupting. Go ahead.
Sorry. We weren't in a flood zone. Subsequently, I-75 went in, developments come in along 64. Now Magnolia Manor is in a flood zone. The main drain right now runs through this property. The one lake in there is probably a retention pond from the original drainage for Magnolia Manor. When you look at flood control, stormwater management off of this impervious area that's coming with all these homes coming in, this road coming in, we're going to need more retention in this development than is currently being provided. I apologize, I didn't even know we had a neighborhood meeting on this development. This thing looks like it could come very quick if you approve it today. I certainly recommend denial. We would, as a gentleman ahead of me noted, if we just did 1 unit per acre on this almost 90 acres, we're looking at close to 90 homes that could go in there. That would be a stretch. To think of 240 homes going in there, to think you can serve it with a 6-inch water line and still meet fire flow requirements for just the subdivision and to preserve the fire flows in Magnolia Manor, that's not going to happen. I spent 36 years with the county in the water department, and I know we're challenged to meet the needs, the growing needs of this community. But with new development going in past the future development boundary out east, we've got so many homes coming. You really don't need to be increasing density where you don't need to. It's not going to, if you approve this, it's not to the benefit of our neighborhood. It's certainly to the benefit of the developer. But it degrades the whole county, degrades our neighborhood substantially, and I would recommend denial.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it, Mr. Chairman. Anyone else who would like to speak on this issue, please step forward. Thank you, sir. Name, residence, and that you've been sworn, please.
Good morning, Board. I have been duly sworn in. My name is Dana Stump. I reside at 1617 Morgan Johnson Road.
Thank you, sir.
Before this can even go forward, you're going to have to redo the traffic analysis. The traffic analysis, according to that presentation, was done in April of 2023. Since the 44th extension was not open at that time, the traffic pattern, as one of my other neighbors has said, has extremely changed. Also, if you want to improve this, there's going to need to be an analysis on 64th Street Court East, because we're presently having a development there where you're going to build a hotel. So these people are not all going to go from 18th Avenue to Morgan Johnson Road. They're also going to go down to 64th Street Court East to get to 64 to 75. So you've got 2 roads that are going to need an evaluation. I'm sure the
developer will only do the area in front of them, which will not help the majority of the traffic that needs to go down to the east on 18th Avenue and then to the north on 64th Street Court East. So those areas will be greatly impacted by this, as I agree with some of the other comments that's already been made. Even one house per acre is going to be extreme, simply because the rest of the communities, they're not on 1 acre plots. So you're changing the entire area. The sidewalk that was put in on what would be the east side of Morgan Johnson Road that runs to 13th Avenue has no crosswalk. And so it stops right there, and there's no really safe way for those people to cross over. We already see people that walk from other areas, and they have to try to jump in between the traffic. And as one of the commenters also said, 18th is going to have a stoplight. And from what I understand, the extension on 44th is still probably 2.5 to 3 years away before some of that traffic can get all the way across 75. So if this starts before then, Morgan Johnson already has had 2 accidents in just the last 3 weeks. So the impact to the environment is obviously what they've said, but more importantly, the infrastructure is not planned out to handle this in any form or fashion. So I think you're going to need to step back before you even go forward and make sure that you've got your infrastructure plan ready for, if you want to approve this, you're going to approve a dynamite situation that's not going to be controllable. Thank you for your time, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your input. Anyone else please step forward that would like to speak in regards to this issue?
My name is Elsie Rucker. I'm a retired physician. I live at 3814 Morgan Johnson Road. I've been sworn in.
Perfect, thank you.
I'm a victim of the new bridge opening on 44th, and the traffic that's quadrupled in the past 6 months, people taking that as a shortcut. Now, 18th Avenue is a 2-lane, small road that's not going to support the 500-some cars that's going to be thrown onto it. As it is, it takes me, now I have to wait at least 5 minutes to make a left turn or a right turn from my residence, which is on 7 acres, one house on 7 acres. And most of the neighborhood is large lots large lots. And to have this kind of density to be forced upon it, it's just not practical. And if you ever make a turn south on Morgan Johnson Road from 64 with a 1-inch rain, that's a flood zone already. You just can't go through it even at the 40 miles that's allowed. You have to creep through it at 10 miles because there's water where the Home Depot is. There's 4 inches of water on the road with just one small rain. And if my lot gets flooded because of it's built closer to the road, hence to avoid the flood zone. So if all the water from this development is directed to Manatee River, to Brain River, then there's going to be even further flooding to the existing lots. So I would request the Planning Commission to consider it seriously and deny the request. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for coming forward. Appreciate that. Is there anyone else in the public who would like to make comment at this time?
Jason Merritt, and I have been sworn in.
Thanks.
I'm a resident on 18th Avenue. We're actually right there, probably like in between where the 2 driveways are going to be. I've got dogs, we've got kids, we already have issues because there are no sidewalks down 18th. you know, I've never been able to let my kids ride the bicycle on 18th. All this is going to do is exacerbate. So you have those issues if you're dumping the extra 500 cars on 18th. This morning I leave to go to work at we go about 6:40. You're saying about 3 to 4 minutes, even at that early time. And the later you go, the later it's getting, trying to get off of 18th onto Morgan Johnson. Coming in the evenings, if you're coming down, if somebody's trying to take a left and something happens on I-75, everybody uses Morgan Johnson as a jump off. So we're just increasing all this traffic without dealing with it. Like I said, if you don't have a light right now, people can be waiting, 20 to 30 minutes at the 64th, if you go down 64th where it comes out on 64. So like the people on the south, if they're gonna, on the east driveway that they're showing, if they're gonna go out that way, it's gonna clog up that whole area over there. There's no sidewalks on 64th. I guess they did say they would put sidewalks down 18th to the west, but they're not addressing anything to the east. So from what they were saying on the plan, they did say they would put, I guess, from going to the west, going to Morgan Johnson. I don't know why. At one time, years ago, there was something on one of the plans. Somebody had a parcel where they could have access to Morgan Johnson, which at least make more sense. But even then, even if you're at the 1 per acre, you're still dealing with, what do we say, 80 to 90 times 160 cars. So it's just, I don't see that. And I don't understand when they say 18th is a local road. Like I said, everybody uses it as a cut now. I can understand what it's supposed to be, but again, if you're dumping that extra 500 cars, that's not going to be a good thing. And then the environmental impact, again, I know some of the other people talked about the chemicals and stuff, and some of the other businesses that are traditionally been there. I think I've been there since before '84, lived in the neighborhood. Some of the businesses, there will be other stuff, I think, that might be environmental impacts once they start messing with some of the land that was there. So I don't know if it doesn't seem like they've addressed those completely yet. So, all right, thank y'all for your time.
Thanks for coming forward. Appreciate your comments. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on this issue? And again, just to remind you, name that you've been sworn and your residence.
No.
Okay, we have that available. Anyone else?
You might be thinking about speaking.
If you're here, you probably want to speak, so raise your hand.
Remotely gonna speak. They are.
Good morning. My name is Victoria Pence, and my address is 1527 67th Street, Court East. And I have lived there for 27 years. I have a small horse farm, and I have a German Shepherd dog rescue. This is having an acre that has 3 houses just does not fit into this whole scenario. There's a lot of other people that have more acreage too. The thing that I see that really jumps out at me is you're saying 500 cars. Now, probably today I will have gone back and forth on my long driveway at least 4 times. So let's figure 500 cars times 4. So we're talking about 2,000 cars traveling back and forth on that. And sometimes people will go more often and say, oh, I forgot to go to the grocery store. So I just wanted to bring out that point that 500 is very conservative. Even on one house for 1 acre, I can sort of understand. But drive around our neighborhood. Everybody's got some acreage. We've got our dogs, we've got kids. It just needs to really be considered. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anyone else who would like to speak?
Hello there, my name is James Avino. My address is 1402 64th Street, Court East, and I've been sworn in.
Thanks.
I moved from Miami last year due to this exact problem that here I'm talking about today is just incredible overdevelopment on basically every parcel of land that can be found and repurposed. When I grew up in Kendall, my area was much like the area that I live in now. Lots of people had acreage lots. And there was a farm across the street that was about 25 acres with many other farms near it. Over time, as that went away, everything turned into gridlock traffic to the point that when I sold my house that I purchased only 6 years ago, I lived in West Kendall, which was less developed than where I had grown up because I had already moved away from the development once. It became so bad that I had a Publix a quarter of a mile from me, and this Publix took 35 minutes to get to. Because, simply put, during any busy hours of the day, you couldn't even get out of the development because there were so many cars. And I took a look at how many cars are projected to be in this development, and I realized that this, with 242 houses, actually has 4 times the number of houses that was in the development that I was in. And if I look at the developments that were around my old development, this still has twice the number of homes. And it's actually in half the amount of acreage. So considering that my roads before were 2 lanes and we couldn't get anywhere, this would make the entire area complete gridlock. And if you've driven through 18th or 64th Street Court East, we have Juniper down the street, and they have big trucks coming back and forth all day, every day. There's a few other, businesses in the area, and 64th is actually kind of busy now. And I'm talking about Street Court East, not even Main 64, because that's can already be a parking lot at some times of the day. So sticking 242 homes is just impossible in terms of traffic. I mean, here, looking at the actual paperwork provided on this this development plan, it's showing that in peak hours, they're talking about 127 cars out and 87 cars in the PM time. And that's just within 1 hour. Well, I mean, if you just figure the amount of time it takes for a car to make a turn, it's barely possible to do 127 cars in an hour. So how could you fit 127 cars in an hour in just one direction? Never mind both directions. So essentially, just the plan that they've already gone through, which has been approved here, shows that the traffic is literally impossible. I recommend for denial. Obviously, if it's currently zoned at, Res 1, then if they have to be allowed to use Res 1, it will already be difficult for all of us to add 80 homes. But adding 242 would just simply not work and would cause a danger to the community just for the sheer amount of traffic. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming forward. Appreciate it. Public comment. Anybody further would like to make public comment on this issue?
My understanding is we can speak on 5 and 6.
Yes.
And I would like to make a comment on 6, please.
Didn't we open both public hearings
Yes.
at the same time?
Yes.
So can you come back and talk again?
And Mr. Chair, it's up to you, but both public hearings were open at the same time.
I think in the fairness of coming down, I don't mind giving you another 3 minutes.
Sure. Okay, thank you. Again, Brian Kensier, 5919 18th Avenue East. I have been sworn. So when we look at the other subdivisions that have been referenced, like I say, River Sound and Amberley, that main part of that is they have access to Morgan Johnson Road. And that's how they can get away with having 124 houses in Amberley and 185 in River Sound, okay? They have a clear access, those roads have been widened there, okay? So when you're looking at what our street is with the 2 exit points, as they are going to be coming out and going north and south, we already have speed bumps there. The reason we got the speed bumps, again, was because of the cut-through, and so many cars were coming through at a high rate of speed. I personally had a cop, a friend of mine, or one of our sheriff's department, that came in there and they did radaring, and at one point, they had 13 tickets within 2 hours, and they only got people that were going over 50 miles an hour. Okay, this is a 30-mile-an-hour street. That's why they had to get the traffic things in, which has helped, but it is still creating problems still because it is that cut-through. Again, adding that 44th Avenue now, putting that is just overabundance of what it is. So I think, again, I'm going to go back to the compliance versus common sense. Okay, compliance is one thing. I can make anything look like it's legal and it's good and it fits within all the parameters, but then the common sense part of it needs to take over and look at is this really what we need in our community? Because it's not consistent with everything that's around there. And that's the main thing that I want to stress to you is if you want to, I would say at this point, delay this. I would challenge you to come out and take a look at our property. Look at the area that we live in, okay, and see what's there, and then you tell yourself, how are we going to fit 242 houses right here? Because that's the real problem right now, is we are trying to jam all of this in the smallest area that we can, or the biggest area that they could physically buy, but it's just simply not, it just doesn't make common sense. And that's the main thing that I just wanted to let you know. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming down. We appreciate it. Okay, anyone else that would like to comment? If not, then we're going to close the public hearing part of the review, and we'll open it up to the board for comments, thoughts, questions. Mr. Leslie, staff.
Perhaps somebody from staff could address some of the traffic, transportation issues?
Well, I think
Or the,
Yeah.
somebody.
Mr. Chair, also, the applicant's burden of proof on this issue, so the applicant should have their own traffic person here, too.
Yeah, so I think the question would come from their traffic
Okay,
representative.
that's fine.
I happen to see him here.
Good morning, Michael Yates with Palm Traffic, and I have been sworn. Did you have a specific question, or would you like me to go through and address some of the comments and questions that got raised?
Just address some of the comments and the, since the 44th Street Bridge opened, the differences that you see there.
And I'm going to at least just put up the site plan just for reference. I'm going to at least, let me talk about some of the capacity and traffic and what we did, what improvements we're doing, because we are doing improvements as part of the project. So we actually did counts out there, and we followed the TIS for the comp plan procedures and the TIA for the rezoning components. And so that required a full
Mr. Chairman.
traffic study.
If you could use the words, because not everyone speaks your language, it would be really great for a lot of the people in the audience.
TIS is a traffic impact statement, which is just a general overview of traffic. And then a TIA is a traffic impact analysis, which is a lot more detailed traffic study of the area. We actually go out and do traffic counts. We use a traffic model to estimate distribution. We add in all the vested trips that are approved by the county. And then we analyze the intersections and driveways as to are turn lanes warranted, where are improvements required, what are our impacts to those intersections. And so we had specifically 2 improvements required. One is a eastbound right turn lane at the project driveway on the western side, where we think a large majority of the trips will turn into the site. So that gets them off 18th Avenue into a turn lane and into the driveway. We also did a link evaluation. So through the counts we did, 18th Avenue is, with the project traffic, would be less than half of the capacity of the roadway. Now, again, you always deal with perception versus reality of capacity of a roadway. But from a traffic engineering perspective, we are less than half of the capacity of the roadway of 18th. The second improvement that we have is on Morgan Johnson at 18th. So what we are required to do is build a southbound left turn lane. So those are people coming from State Road 64, south of Morgan Johnson, and then making a left onto 18th to get to the site. And so, put up a little aerial, that'd probably help a little bit. So people coming south on Morgan Johnson, and then making a left on 18th to come to the site. So we would be required to build a southbound left turn lane. So what that will do is that would allow people that are traveling on the roadways to make that left onto 18th without interfering with the traffic flow on Morgan Johnson. So that allows them to get off the roadway and then safely make that left turn lane. That would allow the intersection to work at an acceptable level of service. Again, we do a traffic simulation model to evaluate how these intersections will work. It's very good at doing that, and it would, with those improvements, that would allow it to operate at an acceptable level of service. So that is the synopsis. I'll be happy to address any specific questions you may have.
No, that's fine for me for right now. Thank you.
I had a question. Can you kind of describe the traffic calculations versus the calculations of houses times number of cars? Because one of the things I have a problem with is the national standards that you use. You get your database from someone else and it makes it all work out fine. And I'm frustrated by the fact that, just what they said, if you have 300 units and they have 2.5 cars, your calculations are what, 78 units at night? I mean, it's absurd. I mean, common sense. Thank God there is some, but it's what you use, and that's the standard we have to use. So describe what you're using to give us your numbers, and tell us the access points and the velocity of cars coming out, please.
Yeah, so what we use is the Institute of Transportation Engineers, Trip Generation 11th edition. And so that is a national publication which takes national data for residential and all land uses that could be developed. And so basically they compile it from year after year after year, and then they do a graph that will tell you what the estimated trips are. And so this data is based on what is actually counted at subdivisions, what are the actual trip generation. And so what you can see for residential, it works out to just under 1 trip per dwelling unit during the peak hour. Now, so this is only 1 trip during a 1 hour period. So that is 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. It's 1 hour in there. And then 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. It's 1 trip within that hour. And so basically what it is, and then for a daily perspective, you're 10 trips per day per unit, just under. And so basically what that is based on national data. That will tell you how much is coming in. So this isn't saying that from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. you're only having 1 trip. In that peak hour, you're only having 1 trip. Outside that hour, you could have a trip, so someone could come into for each unit at 3 o'clock. And so it is spread throughout the day. But again, this is national data. The single-family detached is probably one of the best studied land use categories within the ITE handbook. And I tell you, I have done studies at residential sites in Florida, in the area, and the data is very accurate. It's very representative of what will be generated by the site.
In your expert opinion.
Correct.
And I don't mean no disrespect, but
understand.
It works well for processing. I'm not sure I 100% believe it personally. So anyway, any other questions regarding?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, so this intersection at Morgan Johnson doesn't warrant a signal, and you don't anticipate it with any surrounding development ever warranting a signal there?
Not unless something dramatic changed. So signal warrants are based on traffic flow. And so as the minimum warrant for a traffic signal, you need 53 cars per hour for 8 hours of the day making a left from the side street. We won't even probably have that number during the peak hour, so for even 1 hour. So unless something dramatically changed, I don't think it would ever meet warrants for a signal.
So the important thing about that for those listening is that if this intersection warranted a signal, then the county could possibly force this developer to put a signal in, because there would be enough traffic to warrant a signal. If it's not warranted by the traffic study, then the county really can't force the developer to do that. Doesn't mean the county can't do it if the county decides they want to do it, but they really can't force the developer to do it. My second question is, did your study include 44th? What about background trips? What else in the general area?
So we did counts when we did the traffic study. Then we also included all the vested projects within the county. So the county maintains a link data sheet that keeps track of every CLOS that gets approved and the trips that are assigned to every link. And they do it throughout the county. They update it every month. And we did our traffic study based on the latest data when we were going through the process. And so all that is included. We also did the modeling distribution. And so that included all the roads that were under construction that were anticipated in the next 5 years. So it included all the new roadway
But included
construction.
44th being
Yeah.
open.
Yes.
So, and that's one of the other things. So it's not just the things that people can see built and occupied, it's the things that are projected and approved, right?
That is correct.
Okay. Any other questions in regards to, how about any questions generally for the submitter or the staff at this point?
Aren't we going to have closing statements and stuff?
Yeah, we will. Just say, as long as we're having, yes, go ahead, please.
Do you want the applicant to address the stormwater question?
That's was I was kind of thinking would be next. Stormwater, can you comment about that, please?
Good morning. My name is Matt Morris with Morris Engineering. I have been sworn. To speak generally in regards to stormwater for the project, a couple things specific to this project that are different than others. We do development throughout the state of Florida. Typically, we're seeing stormwater ponds account for anywhere between 12 and 15% of a developed site to provide the needed treatment and attenuation for stormwater. Attenuation being essentially holding back stormwater on the site before we let it discharge so that we're not causing any flooding or anything like that off-site. This project is about 20%, so we've got quite a bit more stormwater pond area than typical projects that we see, not just in Manatee County, but like I said, throughout the state of Florida. During the permitting process, we're required to go through and get a permit from the Southwest Florida Water Management District as well as from the county. Both agencies have requirements for us essentially having to prove to them that we're not adversely impacting anybody off-site. That doesn't mean that we're going to make anything better, but it means that we have to prove to both the state and Manatee County that we're not going to exacerbate any issues that may be out there now. Any flow that's coming into our site from adjacent properties, we have to make sure that we're accommodating that flow and still allowing it to get from point A to point B, wherever it was coming from and going to across our site. In this case, we're actually utilizing a watershed model that Manatee County has produced for this entire area that takes into account a pretty vast watershed of, I don't know exactly how many acres off the top of my head, but it's a couple thousand acres, I believe it is, for this watershed for the area that drains this particular location. We're using that to demonstrate that we're not providing or we're not causing any adverse impacts. That requires us to look at water elevations and compare a pre-development water elevation and a post-development water elevation within that whole basin and show that we're not raising any levels of water off of our project site by more than 1/100th of a foot. So we've got a pretty onerous requirement on us to show that we're not going to be adversely impacting anybody adjacent to our site or even quite a ways upstream or downstream from our project site. So we have to do that at the time of final site plan and construction plan with the county and in order to get our water management district permits, which obviously we need before we can actually go out and construct any of this infrastructure for the project.
And can you tell me, do you happen to know off the top of your head the date of the watershed study by the county? Because I know we're updating them, and is this a more current one than?
I don't know the date of this one in particular, but I can say that whatever the latest version of the models are, we get those from the county regularly, and we do use the latest watershed models, which is one of the requirements that your staff has, is that we have to use whatever the latest model is.
You don't know which watershed district you're in there?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I can get that information for you.
Maybe
but,
staff will know. And then I had another question in regards to, there was comments made about the capacity there from a former employee of the county saying that the capacity is not available there. Are you sure that all utilities, sewer, water, et cetera, are all available there to adequately supply that many houses?
According to all the discussions that we've had with your staff, there is adequate capacity there. We do have to do some connections to some off-site water mains and sewer mains and things like that, but all the information and discussions we've had with your staff have been that there is sufficient capacity. We will have to obviously do more detailed analysis of that ourselves and run calculations on it as we progress forward with the final site plan, construction plans. I know one of the commenters mentioned fire flow. We do have to provide modeling data taking into account all the homes that we're proposing to build, as well as existing flows and existing pressures in the county system to show that we are meeting fire flow, both for our site as well as making sure that we're not reducing fire flow requirements anywhere else. Same thing for sanitary sewer. We'll have to do an analysis of downstream lift stations to show that we wouldn't have to make any improvements to them, or if we do have to make improvements to them, that would be one of the requirements of our permit with the county, would be that we'd have to go upgrade lift stations potentially if we're causing any issues with those, and do those sorts of things, which is typical of every development that happens in the county.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
it's in the Brain River watershed.
Oh, it is? Okay. And has that been updated recently that you know of? I mean, when I say recently,
I don't know the latest update, but every project, typically, they go and get the latest. It's a requirement.
Right. I don't have anything, Mr. Morris. Anything else?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
This is not in one of the areas of known flooding for the county?
I believe that there is some known flooding adjacent to the site, so that's the reason
To
that
be
we're
required
doing
to
the
do the
no-rise
50%
analysis.
or?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, would you like to elaborate on what that really
Sure.
means?
So they will have to have, since it's in the Brain River watershed, they're subject to a 25% reduction in the post-developed runoff versus the pre-developed runoff. There is some known localized flooding along some of the roadways in the area.
Okay. And Mr. Morris, you won't have to, but you'll do a phase one at some point along the way?
Yes, and actually, I had reached out to our client prior to coming here. There was a phase one done that came back clean, but we'll provide all that documentation when we come in for the final site plan.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else from dais? Okay, thanks very much. Questions for our staff before we get to rebuttal? I would like to ask staff one question just about the capacities and then also about the flood zone out there in the water. Anybody here that could speak to that?
Yes, sir, I can.
No, lovely. So there's no question in your mind that the capacity's out there to make this approval, otherwise they wouldn't have submitted with that, right?
Capacity in which sense?
The water and sewer.
Okay, so the water and sewer, they will have to do an analysis to show that the existing mains that are out there today, which I believe right in front of the site is only a 6-inch, but they'll have to do an analysis to show that that will adequately provide fire flow to their furthest point into their site. If it shows that a 6-inch is not enough, then they will have to upgrade to whatever point that is needed to provide that.
Right. So the point is they have to make it at the level as required by code, whether it's there or they have to do it themselves, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
saying no capacity is not really a statement, is correct, right?
Correct.
Okay.
If they want to build, they will have to put in the appropriate
Thing with
size.
sewer, if the lift station doesn't have draft, they have to install what's required to make it meet code and be adequate to the system and not a drain on the system, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The other thing is on the watershed district, I again, always like to hear that we have got the most current information when you take an 80-acre project, because obviously, we're finding big differences from the insurance flood lines, all the rest of it. So that's a concern. But obviously, staff is fully aware of that, and they're going to make sure that we have the most current and contemporary information to make decisions, correct?
Yes, sir. And if the flood elevation is not established in the area, then they will have to show what that flood elevation is with their modeling.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? Ms. Prosser, any thoughts, questions? Okay. No, we don't take questions. Sorry, thanks, though.
Yeah, sure.
With that, we'll close comments and turn it over to the board. Any thoughts, questions?
So, Mr. Chair, we have to finish staff closing comments and applicant rebuttal.
Oh, I thought we asked for staff. Staff, any other closing comments? No, ma'am. Sorry. And a rebuttal from the applicant. Any final rebuttal? Okay. That's what I thought we were.
Mr. Chairman, I mean, I'm going to want to see a proffered stipulation that, because right now the preliminary site plan does not show the 50-foot buffer going along the front. It stops. So someone needs to bound up, the applicant needs to say, yes, we'll do that. And the other thing I'd like to hear is that where this property abuts, these houses abuts existing residential properties on the east and the west, that we get like an 80% opaque buffer in those areas or something like that, unless we're not interested in that.
Kara Koenig with Manatee County staff. I have been sworn. With regards to the 50-foot roadway buffer, perhaps it was incorrectly mentioned to be 50-foot across the entire board. The 20-foot's what's required, and that is provided in those north and west areas. So it is more of a variable width roadway buffer to the north.
So, so is the applicant here? So the applicant will hopefully offer that the 50-foot goes property line to property line?
As Kara stated, it's required to have 20 feet. They've put 50 feet in between the two drives. On the areas on the outside of the drives, it's 20 feet. We can have that discussion with the developer. I don't think that he would have an issue with providing the 50 feet, even though that's well above and beyond what's required and what they are providing along the frontage of 18th right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
And you have no interest in increasing the opacity of the buffer opposite existing residences on the east and the west?
We could have that discussion at FSP time, because right now we're
No,
providing.
not really, because
Well,
the staff can't force you to do it at that point, and all it will be is a discussion.
Right, because they're providing the 15-foot green belt, which is what the requirement is right now between.
I realize that, but this is a
Just
PDR
along the eastern
rezone, so we're
property,
going
you
to
would
do
just.
above and
just
beyond.
An enhanced 15
All right.
foot. I don't
I
think.
got my
that the-
answers.
Any other questions from the, no? Okay, with that, we'll close the presentations and open it up for board commentary and recommendations.
And Mr. Chairman, just to organize the
Separate.
voting, we first vote on the council plan amendment on 5, and then depending on that vote, we vote on 6.
Okay, so our comments first would be on 5, your thoughts, comments, and recommendations.
Well, my thought is there's just too many houses for this area, so I will vote denial on both of them.
Okay. Ms. Presser, thoughts?
I appreciate the comments. For me, I'm decidedly uncomfortable with having 1,800 or 1,800 linear feet and having only two access points on that same crowded road. So I would probably vote for denial as well.
Any other further comments from the board? No? I do struggle with some of the points. I don't feel it's as refined as it could be, and so I'm probably going to be a negative vote on it because of that. I just think that some of the things raised here and the numbers and the roadway there with the access points, I don't think is a optimum design, and I think in the neighborhood that you have, that's a problem. So I don't think it fits the character of what the surrounding neighborhood is. So I'm going to be a difficult vote on that. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think it is, definitely a transitional area from the Res 1 to the Res 3, so you could say it's compatible with properties to the northwest, but it's really not compatible at this time to the south and southeast, I believe. It may just not be the time yet. I think Res 1, one unit per acre is appropriate.
Okay. With that, do I have a motion for 5? As read into the record as PA 2305. Okay, we have a motion from Mr. DeLesline, second by Ms. Prosser. So would you please cast your vote? And the vote to decline passes 4-1.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, I'm actually in favor of the overall project, and that's why I'm essentially voting for the comp plan change. I'm not in favor of, my vote will be yes on the comp plan change. It might not be the same vote on the next one for the FSP, or the rezone PSP.
Mr. Chair, just to clarify, so if you vote negative on the comp plan change, you don't have to vote on the quasi-judicial, because the quasi-judicial
It's subject
depends on the
to.
comp plan, so
Okay,
you're down voting.
okay. So this,
So in that case, let me summarize why I voted against it, because if the comp plan should be changed, and I understand that local residents don't like this, but infill development is necessary to stop urban sprawl out east. And actually, if you're concerned about the traffic on 18th, you know what'll slow that traffic down? More cars. So right now, you go 50, 60 miles an hour down through there, and if you put more cars on the road, then actually the traffic will actually slow down, and it causes traffic calming. You don't like those answers because they're big picture planning answers. So it's probably the right thing to do is to develop this parcel, although the buffer should have been increased, but it doesn't matter because the comp plan failed, so it moves on.
thank you for that. Any other points of business for the,
I think we probably should tell the public what happens after this regardless.
Well, the agenda indicates that the council plan amendment transitional hearing is held by the board on December 7th, 2023. Correct?
So
But
Yeah,
only the comp plan amendment goes on that date, because normally the quasi will come back to them on the same time on adoption hearing, February 1st. Correct?
so just understand, from our perspective, we are a recommending board. We have a certain group of criteria to say and communicate to the commission. The commission makes those final decisions, and so it will go to them for their opinion. So don't lose heart and don't lose enthusiasm, because that next one will be an important vote, so keep that in mind. But this one does not pass today as submitted. We take questions afterwards, it's not a question and answer, sorry. Anything else for the good of the board? Thank you all. With that, we'll adjourn the meeting.